At least 2 blasts have rocked central Kyiv in Ukraine, hitting the old town and government buildings, according to the capital's mayor.
Russian President Vladimir Putin to hold a meeting with his National Security Council after attack on Crimean Bridge, which he's calling a terrorist act.
Explosions have rocked the capital of Ukraine in apparent missile strikes. It follows months of relative calm in Kyiv. In a telegram message, the capital's mayor says there were several explosions in the Shevchenskivsky district and has since reported widespread destruction, including the historic Old Town, as well as several government offices. The blast comes just 2 days after an attack on the bridge connecting Russia to its annexed territory of Crimea, which Russian President Vladimir Putin called an act of terrorism. Putin will discuss the bridge damage at a meeting of his Security Council today.
Officials say road and rail traffic have partially resumed following Saturday's fiery explosion on a strategic Crimean bridge. The blast has provoked Russian President Vladimir Putin into holding a meeting of his National Security Council in the Kremlin today. Putin has already described the incident on the Key Bridge, which links occupied Crimea to the Russian mainland, as a terrorist act.
There is no doubt this is an act of terrorism aimed at destroying Russia's critical civilian infrastructure. Its authors, perpetrators and beneficiaries are the security services of Ukraine.
Officials say 3 people were killed in the blast on the bridge. There's speculation that the victims could have been in a nearby car when a lorry blew up. Political analysts say the explosion is highly significant.
This is a clear confirmation of the weakness of Putin's army, Putin's special services, Putin's state, Putin's regime, Putin himself. That is, this is because once again they see when the authorities say that everything is going according to plan and we win, they lie, and it demoralizes them.
Meanwhile, in the city of Zaporizhia in Ukraine's southeast, a search operation continued throughout the night. Hope has all but disappeared of finding anyone alive in the rubble following Russian missile strikes on several residential buildings. At least 13 people are now known to have died, with as many as 90 more injured.
Thousands of people in Bosnia took to the streets for the second time in a week, alleging that a pro-Russian Bosnian Serb leader had rigged a ballot during a general election earlier this month. The opposition parties in Republika Srpska, one of 2 entities of Bosnia-Herzegovina, say the candidate they backed, Helena Trivic, defeated longtime nationalist leader Milorad Dodik in the October 2nd election. They are demanding a recount of the votes for president amid reports of dozens of election irregularities. In a speech, Trivic demanded judicial institutions to conduct investigations and criminal charges to be taken against all individuals who took part in organised election theft, for which she says they already provided evidence and that the public is aware of it all. She added that thieves have altered the election will of the people. Dodik, who is the most powerful politician in the Bosnian Serbs' semi-autonomous region, has denied allegations that he orchestrated an election fraud. He has ruled practically unchallenged for years, despite being sanctioned by the West for advocating the separation of Republika Srpska from the rest of Bosnia. Final results of the October 2nd vote in Bosnia are yet to be announced. Austrian President Alexander Van der Bellen appears to have secured a second 6-year term in office by winning a clear majority of votes and avoiding a runoff. According to projections, the 78-year-old incumbent swept 54.6% of the votes, with 6 other candidates, all men, lagging far behind.
It's a bit difficult to explain, especially the journalists, that you do not only need a majority. Majority on the 9th of October means having more than all the others together. That's what it is.
Although the position is largely ceremonial, the former Greens leader had campaigned on a slogan of clarity and stability and had been billed as a safe pair of hands as the ripple effects of Russia's invasion of Ukraine push up inflation throughout Europe.
It's great that it was possible already in the first round. Although, as a green activist who likes to talk with people, I would not have been afraid of a second round. It would have meant more time to talk to people and convince them of our ideas.
There were 7 contenders in Sunday's election, but van der Bellen had the implicit or explicit backing of Austria's mainstream parties. The Freedom Party was the only one in Parliament to field a candidate against him. The confirmed final result will only be announced after counting the absentee ballots later today.
Psychologist Natalia doesn't get news about Ukrainian army moves from TV. Like others Euronews spoke to in the Mykolaiv region, every day she follows anonymous first-hand reports on social media and knows personally Ukrainian soldiers on the front line, as well as the volunteers that are trying to help the civilians living on the territories.
What is going on in Mykolaiv and the Mykolaiv region is a horror. This is a real horror. What is going on in Kherson is unimaginable. It's Bucha #2. The closer the Ukrainian soldiers are to Kherson, the greater the chances of more civilians staying alive.
Every other evening, Natalia bakes and sends food to the front line to support Ukrainian soldiers. The road to get there is hard. The one to Kherson, temporarily occupied by Russia, is way harder than it used to be. A drive that used to take 1 hour now takes volunteers 6 days. Then medicine can also be confiscated by Russian army at checkpoints. Countless villages in the south stand in ruins, with their former inhabitants now displaced. Among them is Maria. Nothing is left of her family home in the Kherson region. Her husband was the last one evacuated 6 days after a rocket fell on his doorstep.
My grandchildren. Children are such good people, all of them. The war has scattered us.
You all had to leave your village?
Yes, and our grandson went there and saved his grandfather.
To do that, the young man walked alone into the village under fire. The mission appeared too risky even for any humanitarian organizations around. A wide network of charities and volunteers support the army and those in most need. Despite extreme fatigue, their devotion is remarkable.
We know a lot of our soldiers taking back our land centimetre by centimetre, and we are very grateful for it. We are trying to do everything possible to bring victory closer.
For people in southern Ukraine, the advances of the Ukrainian army mean the end of the imminent danger for them and for their families, and a chance to start rebuilding their lives.
A boating accident in the Polish city of Gdansk has left 3 people dead, including a pregnant woman. The tragedy happened when a wave capsized a tourist boat. Officials said the boat most likely turned over due to waves generated by a nearby tugboat. More than 20 firefighters, search and rescue units and border guards were involved in the search and rescue operation.
The recent missile tests were tactical nuclear drills in response to the US-led joint military exercises in the region, according to North Korea's leader. Photos of Kim Jong-un overseeing the recent launches and posing with soldiers were released by the Korean Central News Agency. 8 have been fired in recent weeks, sparking concern from South Korea, Japan and the West. The leader of Taiwan has warned Beijing that the island would never give up its democratic way of life. President Tsai Ing-wen made the comment in her speech on the National Day, marking the democratic self-ruled island's 111th birthday. The remarks followed China's goal to take over the control of Taiwan. The cleanup has begun in Nicaragua after Hurricane Julia dropped to a tropical storm when it hit the country with strong winds of around 85 kilometers per hour. It's now passed over to the Pacific. There were warnings of life-threatening flash floods and possible mudslides in the region, with around 38 centimetres of rain expected to fall in isolated areas.